Thank you, Sophie. Welcome to Spotlight. I'm Janine Jansen. On the programme tonight, still reeling from Storm Dara. Trees down, road and rail disruption and buildings damaged.
It's ripped the roof right off of our accommodation block, but it was pretty devastating in there for a period of time.
Tragic scenes as power cables crash down, electrocuting 9 cows.
It's not very nice seeing your own animals lying dead in the field.
Also in tonight's programme, overcoming their first obstacle. The couple determined to tie the knot.
Hear how we still managed to get married even though we lost our original venue to Storm Dara.
I'm at TR2 in Plymouth to meet the children's cast of the new Snow White panto for the Theatre Royal. But I don't know where they are.
Where are you?
It ripped roofs off buildings, left thousands without power, disrupted rail services and brought down hundreds of trees, blocking roads right across the region. Storm Dara was the 4th named storm of the season. Weather warnings for high winds were in place from Friday afternoon, and Bury Head in South Devon saw the strongest gust ever recorded there on Saturday at 96 miles per hour. Well, tonight, thousands of homes and businesses are still without power. National Grid says engineers are working to restore supplies as soon as they can. John Henderson has been looking back at the weekend.
It huffed and it puffed, and Storm Dara blew down hundreds of trees, this oak, blocking a lane into Staverton in South Devon.
Yeah, it's huge. It's one of the biggest ones we've done for a while. It's a huge, great oak, and it's just split inside, right way through the main stem. So luckily it's just missed the house, but it's on a lot of outbuildings and surrounding trees.
This is part of the roof of Exmouth Indoor Market after it was completely ripped off during Saturday's high winds. Winds that reached speeds of 96 miles an hour at Bury Head near Brixham. The Barnstable Hotel was forced to move guests after its roof was torn off too.
It was the wind speed, the wind direction and everything else. It just caught us just at the wrong angle, and it's ripped the roof right off of our accommodation block, and then it's landed in the middle of things. You've probably seen the pictures around. It was pretty devastating in there for a period of time. But as I say, the team have been immense.
And how about this for sandblasting? Almost painful conditions at the beach at Marazion. And not too far away in West Cornwall, it was a deadly wind, bringing down power cables at Pendine that killed 9 cows.
That's the problem. The wind must have snapped the cable and it fell down on these poor animals. We've had quite a month and we've lost 32 animals to TB. Now we've lost another 9 to this horrible accident.
So it's definitely the first time I'm heard of it. So we understand the cows were sheltering from the storm, a power line came down near to them and really unfortunately electrocuted them. So really, really unfortunate for that farmer. And we're conscious of customers have suffered through this storm, which is why we're working so hard to get power restored as quickly as we can.
The National Grid said Storm Dara was the worst in terms of damage to its network for 7 years, and nowhere in our region escaped. This, a road closed in Exeter city centre, damage here to a building in Newquay. But arguably it could have been so much worse. Take this motorhome, effectively cut in half near Plymouth Central Park. And coming just a fortnight after Storm Bert, there was a sense of powerlessness in the relentless weekend weather. Take the way children's theatre company Soapbox had its tent shredded at Devonport Park.
Well, we watched a small rip appear in the tent, and it just got bigger and bigger, and the winds were too strong for us to do anything about it safely. So we had to leave the tent up and hope for the best.
Power cuts, roads closed and travel difficult. Storm Dara, here battering Portreath, certainly made its mark. John Henderson, BBC Spotlight.
Well, what a weekend. David's with us now. You did warn us, didn't you? How bad was it?
Well, we quite widely had winds over 70 miles an hour, and those 70 mile an hours were gusts of wind. But the average wind speed, the sort of mean wind speed, if you like, was around 50 miles an hour in quite a few locations for quite a while. And a couple of things about this storm. First of all, the sustained nature of the winds. It wasn't just 6 hours or 12 hours, but it was longer than that. It lasted from Friday night all the way through to the end of Sunday. These were the sort of peak gusts of wind. Berryhead, as you mentioned, top of the league there at 96 miles an hour. Thankfully, those winds have now eased, but it went on for a long time.
And how does this compare to previous storms?
Well, we can go back and look at historically what storms we've had before. We don't have to go too far back to 2022. It was the 18th of February 2022 when we had Storm Eunice. Now, the winds associated with that were around 90 miles an hour peak gusts of wind. That was on Portland in Dorset, but many other locations had 70 to 80 miles an hour. The highest winds we've ever seen were back in 1979 at 118 miles an hour in Gwenup Head. But the key to this is with climate change, whereas before we see these storms one in every 50 years, now we're seeing perhaps one every 5 years.
Incredible. Thank you very much for that, David. Well, the father of a 20-year-old from Somerset who died after getting trapped in a hospital window has described how he pleaded with the trust to keep her safe. At an inquest into Jessica Powell's death, her father John described how he even used his car to block the entrance to one hospital because he was so desperate to have her admitted to a personality disorder unit. Our health correspondent Matthew Hill reports.
Jessica Powell's family had been waiting 4 years for today's inquest. They wanted to find out why she died in such disturbing circumstances. Since she was in her early teens, Jessica had a tortured existence, suffering from eating disorders and self-harm.
She had a really good sense of humour when she was well. When she wasn't well, it was awful.
From the age of 13, when she tried to take her own life, Jessica had been in and out of psychiatric hospitals hundreds of miles away. She was eventually diagnosed with unstable borderline personality disorder. She died in August 2020 after she'd been admitted to Yeovil's A&E, where she was transferred as an inpatient to Rowan Ward at Summerlands Hospital for a few days. She was found in a critical state by staff.
She didn't come out for her meds, so they went to her room and she wasn't there. But the room she got into, she tried to squeeze out a 10-centimetre gap in a window. And she squeezed, then she got trapped between her waist and the chest, and that's where they found her.
Mr. Powell told the inquest how over the years the family were pushing for Jess to be sent to a personality disorder unit where she could be given more intense support. But instead, she was discharged to a hostel where he later found out she'd been raped by a fellow resident. Jessica's psychiatrist, Dr. Orton, was asked by the coroner why she felt her patient could be discharged to the hostel. She said that while she was still at risk of self-harming, those risks would be reduced through the support of a community mental health worker. The hearing is due to finish next week. Matthew Hill, BBC Spotlight.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Still to come in tonight's Spotlight. We go behind the scenes to meet the turkeys before Christmas. And no, they're not. Yes, they are. The children getting ready for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now, it's causing a problem for around a third of council homes in East Devon, and for some it's taking up to 5 years to deal with. We're talking about mould and damp. The council says it will develop an action plan to deal with all urgent cases. Here's our political reporter Miles Davis from Budleigh Salterton.
But they are going to take the rendering off eventually to find out what's actually going on underneath it.
Well, damage to brickwork, a hole in the floor and damp in the house. Simon Gibbons has been dealing with problems in his council-owned property for the last 5 years.
It's just an eyesore. When people walk past, they just look at it all the time, and they've never actually done any work. They haven't redecorated any of the houses for so long, and it's just they're just in an incredible state.
He says East Devon District Council have failed to deal with problems and are now facing a bigger bill as a result.
To get someone round here, it's hard work, and 9 times out of 10 they'll send someone around that's got nothing to do with the problem.
Just up the road, another council tenant has suffered from black mould and lice that no amount of washing or airing or painting has been able to deal with. Well, according to a survey, about a third of the homes owned by East Devon District Council have damp issues, with about 10% of properties having serious problems. And one councillor says East Devon needs to do more to tackle these problems urgently, particularly with new legislation coming in to protect council tenants.
A lot of the residents that were coming forward to me sort of had issues with damp and mould. We've seen quite extreme cases in Budley where, we've started with sort of like peeling wallpaper, doors wouldn't open properly, to some of the most extreme where we've got residents whose floors are actually sinking.
The council says it's working on a plan to deal with the most urgent cases as quickly as possible.
I don't think anyone should be living with damp and mould. It's a sad state of affairs that anyone's in this position at the moment. We are prioritising the works, creating a schedule of works so that we can get into those properties as soon as possible, remedy and action the works as soon as we can.
We know that a survey was commissioned into the condition of all council-owned homes back in March 2022, and we're expecting the results of that to be published at some point early in the new year. Miles Davis, BBC Spotlight, East Devon.
Time now for a quick roundup of some other news in the region. And Devon and Cornwall's police commissioner says she hopes to announce an interim chief constable by the end of this week. In a statement released in the last hour, Alison Hernandez says she's not received any representations from acting chief constable Jim Colwell and that he remains suspended whilst investigations continue into allegations of gross misconduct. A cafe in Dorchester has partially collapsed after a large fire broke out in the early hours. The flames inside the Gorge Cafe spread into the roofs of neighbouring properties. Around 50 firefighters were involved and had to help a number of residents move to safety. And Penzance Dry Dock has been given £2 million towards its refurbishment from the government's Shared Prosperity Fund. The refit includes overhauling the dock gates as well as 7 new cranes. The dock, built in 1834, was recently given its first MOD contract in 28 years. Sport now, and Plymouth Argyle will go into tomorrow night's match with Swansea with a new face in the dugout. The club has acted quickly to replace the departing assistant head coach Pete Shuttleworth with a man who Wayne Rooney knows very well from his time at Manchester United. With more on that and the rest of the sport, Andy's here. Andy.
Thank you, Janine. Good evening. Plymouth Argyle fans are feeling good, from what I can tell, after Sir Alex Ferguson's former right-hand man was appointed as assistant head coach until the end of the season. It's testament to his CV that this is being so well received. More often than not, assistants can fly under the radar. But when you've helped bring Premier League titles to Old Trafford, people tend to take note. The 62-year-old will be in the dugout for tomorrow night's game with Swansea.
He's got a massive amount of experience. He knows the game really well. He's managed at this level. He's calm, he's calculated in how he works, which obviously I know very well. He was my coach at Manchester United, so I know how he works really well, and I think he'll fit in really well to what the coaches we've already got.
While their game on Saturday was postponed due to the weather, Exeter City did play at promotion hopeful Stockport. However, the Grecians are now winless in 5 League One matches after an own goal from Tristan Kramer and a late penalty, which saw them leave Edgeley Park empty-handed. It was always going to be a big ask for Exeter Chiefs to take anything from their Champions Cup game in Durban against a side littered with South African internationals. And despite taking an early lead, the Chiefs couldn't stem the tide as the Sharks took control of the game, going on to win by 39 points to 21. And it won't get any easier with reigning champions to lose next up at Sandy Park on Sunday. Elsewhere, the Chiefs women's game was another that fell foul of the weather, but the Cornish Pirates did play and made it back-to-back wins for the first time this season by beating Caldy. Now, Cornish middleweight boxer Brad Pauls has vowed to return after failing in his bid to win his European and WBO international title at Wembley Arena. The Nuki bomb was dropped for the first time in his professional career in the 10th round, later revealing his eye socket had been fractured. The 31-year-old fought on, but the judges scored it as a unanimous points decision in favour of his opponent, Denzel Bentley, who could now be in line for a world title shot. As I've said before, the margins between winning and losing so often so close. Janine.
Busy sport. Thanks very much indeed, Andy. Now, it's just over 2 weeks to go until Christmas. Are you getting excited? And that means thousands of turkeys bred here in the southwest are getting close to fulfilling their Christmas destiny. But what goes on behind the scenes at the farms rearing the centrepiece of our traditional Christmas dinner? John Akers has spent a day at a free-range turkey farm near Chagford.
John, why are they so interested in my welly boots?
I don't think it's because you taste so great. I think it's purely because you've got some vibrant colours going on there.
Yeah, so they like the reds, do they?
Yeah, they're very inquisitive creatures.
This is the beautiful French beer farm on a crisp and cold December day nestled in the valleys near Chagford. And this is 6'7" tall Farmer John, making me look short. They've got 8,000 turkeys here, and John is particularly proud of them.
Our turkeys are renowned and award-winning. I'll just show you with one of them. These turkeys are 6 months of age now. Now we're up at Christmas, and they're a heritage turkey. And as you see, they're bronze and black, and poultry all changed in the 1950s, essentially when poultry all got industrialised. And it's because of these quills amongst them. So as you remove the feathers, you're left with a bit of a black stub under the feather. And that was seen as unsightly by the housewife. So all intensive farm poultry changed to white and more faster grown, whereas we're sticking with the heritage breed because you've got the great eating quality aspects and the genetics. Morning, boys! We're doing like a free range type of turkey. So we're aiming for a great eating quality product for Christmas Day.
How much more is our turkey going to cost us this Christmas?
This year's not too bad. They might say differently. These, back in COVID, when everything went mad, we had like a big increase of like 11%, but now we're just sort of sticking with inflation of around 2–2.5%.
It's quite clear that these turkeys don't agree with everything that Farmer John says. Now, John isn't particularly worried about bird flu this year, despite a confirmed case in Cornwall last month, but he does have one thing that gives him the odd sleepless night.
Staff would be our #1 concern every year. Being such a seasonal product, we need like 25 staff for a solid 3 weeks, and then we don't need anyone. We're quite lucky where we are, being in a sort of dense but rural area. We've got lots of villages, farmer lads, rural people to pull on.
An army of local pluckers have arrived, with John's birds soon to fulfil their Christmas destinies, ready for the big day in just over 2 weeks' time. John Akers, BBC Spotlight, near Chagford.
Chatty little turkeys. And you can listen to John Akers every morning at breakfast on Radio Devon and hear how to play his Christmas cracker competition. Now it's that time of year, isn't it, for pantomimes? Oh, yes, it is. Are you ready? The children's ensemble of the Theatre Royal Plymouth's new panto are busy rehearsing. The 16 youngsters will be joining Birds of a Feather star Leslie Joseph and broadcaster and barrister Rob Rinder on stage for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Hattie McCann went along to see them being put through their paces.
And where do all your dreams come true? Right here in Plymouth Town.
And lift. And pull up and run, 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 run.
Judging by their timing, choreography and teamwork, these panto babes seem like seasoned professionals. But for many, it's their first time on the stage. You wouldn't know it though.
Here we go, and pull up, good.
Their love for their craft is clear.
It's been challenging, but after all, it's just been like really fun. You can just enjoy yourself.
It's really exciting because you always get to learn new things.
And it's an opportunity which is becoming a rarity.
We look at children, we did the panto sort of 10, 15 years ago. They're now performing in the West End. It's a massive thing. There's very, very little opportunity down, outside of London and Manchester.
The children who are part of the ensemble cast learn life skills like professionalism and discipline, and they make lifelong friends. But do they have any fun?
But it is hard work too.
we do have to be like, no, and again, no. And like, you know, we've been doing videos so they can watch the videos. It's just keeping on top of it and not sort of going, right, you've done your rehearsal, we'll see you in a week.
So why did they want to take part?
I wanted to give it a shot because I just wanted to be who I am and how I should be. This year I thought I would attempt to do it and try to get in, and it's been a really good time. I got to make friends and I got to dance on the big stage with all the people, and you got to see all the sets.
Look at your friends. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
The chaperones are always very proud of the young cast.
Good. You just want them to be their best. And when you see their faces, when they do that bow, and there's those cheers from the audience, and you just see their faces, I'm usually a bit of a blubbing mess in the wings. Yeah.
Whether it's to a reception of tears of joy or cheers, these children are ready for the limelight. Hattie McCann, BBC Spotlight, Plymouth.
Back now to the top story and the disruption wreaked by Storm Dara over the weekend. But for one couple who thought their wedding celebration was going to have to be cancelled, there's a happy ending. When the red alert went off on Friday night, Paul and Jason Wilson-Sellers were told they couldn't use the venue they'd booked. But just hours later, and after a lot of hard work by guests and staff, a local holiday park stepped in to make sure it went ahead. John Ayres has the story.
It's the wedding celebration that very nearly didn't happen. Shortly after the red alert went off, Paul and Jason were told the venue wouldn't be able to stage their wedding. Jason had family who had travelled over from South Africa for the occasion.
I was out of my control. There's not really anything we can do about it. Jason was a little bit more stressed than me.
Yeah, I got quiet, which is not me.
Yeah, he went really quiet. But Adrienne said, give me half an hour, I'll get something sorted out.
Matron of Honour Adrienne immediately put out an appeal and was surprised by the response. Ladies Mile Holiday Park stepped up.
There was a lot of stress. Being that late at night, we didn't know if anybody was going to be able to help with less than 12 hours notice. We'd also spent hours putting all the decor together at the original venue, so it was a case of having to lift and shift and finding out if we could get in to get the things.
So the following morning, with just a few hours to go, family, friends and Ladies Mile staff set about taking down the decorations in the original venue and putting it all back together here at the holiday park. And despite the rush, the wedding went ahead as planned.
We managed to pull that off. Well, we set it up in 3 hours and then we rushed back to get ready. So the fact that it was all done so quickly, just fantastic.
Yeah, I like Christmas, so I'm mad about Christmas and glitter. So this is kind of like my own Hallmark Christmas special.
Don't get me wrong, the venue cancelled, and I think they were slightly disheartened when they turned up in the morning, but I think when they realised what we could do for them, they realised that actually it was going to be great. And for me, the moment was when they were getting married on the stage, it had all come together, and I thought as long as they're happy, that's the most important thing.
I can't thank them enough, to be honest. It was just unbelievable. The kindness of strangers and the community was just fantastic.
Yeah.
John Ayres, BBC Spotlight, Dawlish Warren.
What a strong spirit. Good for the future of those two, I think. OK, let's check the weather. Red warning this weekend. You were spot on with that, David, weren't you?
Thank you. Thankfully, there are no warnings in force at the moment. Thank you, Janine. But these weather pictures capture the weekend, really, and the start of this week. That was Watch It on Saturday. Huge waves here. And this one was Porth from today. You can see that the seas are a lot calmer. But the forecast for the next few days keeps a wind going, but that wind is from a slightly different direction. It's coming in from the northeast, and it won't be anywhere near as strong as the gusts we've seen recently. So this week is predominantly dry. It is still quite cold, though, and that's a feature of the weather, I think, for the week in front of us. And the winds continue to ease. In fact, by the time we get to Wednesday, very much lighter conditions for all of us. Just a reminder of those gusts of wind. That's what we saw over the weekend. No surprise at the amount of damage caused because of this strength of wind. The area of high pressure that caused that is to the west of us. The main storm was just squeezed by the area of high pressure, and that just tightened the isobars That's now moved a long way away from us. That's now down into the Mediterranean. We keep these northeast winds going for both tonight and into tomorrow, so the winds aren't going to drop that much overnight tonight, but they start to ease certainly by the middle of the week, and by the time we get to Thursday, we've got high pressure just to the north of us and weather fronts in the Bay of Biscay that may throw a fair amount of cloud across us, but much lighter winds by the time we get into the second half of this week. Now tonight we have some clear skies initially, but more cloud will creep in from the east through the night and plenty of showers for the Channel Islands. That cloud will be around first thing tomorrow morning, so we could start off a bit grey and a bit cold tomorrow morning with 4 or 5 degrees. Still quite a gusty northeast wind for us tomorrow, but those winds will continue to drop through the day. And we have a lot of cloud for most of the day tomorrow, and it's capable of producing a few light showers, particularly over high ground, a few holes in the cloud here and there. But temperatures struggling a little bit tomorrow. After quite a cold start, we might get up to about 7 or 8 degrees as a maximum, but throw in that keen northeast wind. It'll probably feel considerably colder than that, like it's done for the last 2 or 3 days, but not as windy, I have to stress that. For the Isles of Scilly here, I think we've got breezy and quite cold conditions and generally a lot of cloud around. It's coming around the edge of the area of high pressure, and that cloud is going to be a bit stubborn to shift for the week ahead. These are the times of high water for Plymouth. That's at midnight 08 and 12:35. Further west for the Isles of Scilly 11:44 and Portland 1:21 and 13:40 tomorrow afternoon. Now the forecast winds for the next 2 days, similar sort of strength and direction, northeasterly, force 5 to 6, but easing down by Wednesday to a 3 or 4. So we are going to lose the strength of wind, but it is, for the most part for tomorrow, still quite keen. There'll be a few showers, particularly through the Channel, and generally good visibility outside of those showers. So let's look at the week ahead then, because we've got a fair amount of cloud right through to the weekend, but the cloud will break at times to allow some sunny spells. Perhaps on Thursday morning, some winter sunshine, then clouding over a bit. More cloud around on Friday and Saturday, but a gradual but very slow recovery in those temperatures. We finally get to double figures as we go into the early part of next week, once we return to those southwesterly winds, which won't be anywhere near the strength we've seen through the weekend. So it is relatively quiet, just a bit cold and quite breezy for the next 24 hours. Have a nice evening. Janine.
David, thank you very much. Thank goodness that's behind us. I hope you survived the storm okay and didn't suffer too much damage. I'll be back with the late news for you at around 10:30. Whatever you're doing, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.